Listen up.
Welcome back to the Jake Asman Show. Time now for some quick hits.
You gotta move quickly.
There's no time.
Move fast there, come on! And here we go on a Saturday installment of America's favorite sports radio segment. It is time for quick hits right here on the Jake Asman Show. A reminder, if you're watching this on YouTube, to subscribe to me on YouTube. Just search Jake Asman on YouTube and pound that subscribe button. We certainly appreciate you doing just that. And if you missed any of today's show, check out the podcast. It's available on Apple, Spotify, and Stitcher. We post every live hour of the radio show here on Saturday. And of course, during the week, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time. That being said, it is time to dive into a bunch of quick hit topics. And we begin with the NFL draft. The New York Giants hold the 11th pick in the NFL draft, and Giants GM Dave Gettleman spoke with the media on Thursday ahead of his team having that 11th pick. And Dave Gettleman downplayed the idea that he doesn't like to trade down for additional selections.
I've tried in the past. I've tried to trade back, but it's going to be value. I'm not getting fleeced. I refuse to do it. And if somebody wants to make a bad trade back, God bless them. But we've had opportunities. I've tried. And you have to understand the other piece of this, Dan, is sometimes you have a trade, and the guy that the team is trading up for gets picked in front of you. We've had that happen to us. We got to trade, and the so-and-so selects, no trade, Dave, goodbye. And they hang the phone up on me. So that happens too. I mean, it's like it's almost becoming urban myth. I've tried, I really have.
How many times is Dave Gettleman going to bang on the table there in his answer? My goodness, Kevin Zepak, what the heck is going on with Dave Gettleman in that answer?
Dave Gettleman is a kind of a crazy person. He's been in football longer than we've been alive.
He's like your crazy uncle.
A great uncle, because he's quite old. He's 70 years old. So he would be, in that tier. But, hey, man, it went a little bit better for him the first time around with the Giants. I think you could say, as it's been going so far this time around. I know he's made some suspect picks high in the draft, to say the least. We'll see what Los Gigantes are going to do this week.
So let's look at it from this perspective. Dave Gettleman has not traded down one single time in 8 drafts as a GM. So I'm sorry, Dave. It's not an urban myth. It's true. You don't try to trade down. You had the 2nd overall pick in 2018 in a loaded quarterback class where 5 guys went in the first round, and you took a running back 2nd overall.
A great running back, but
who can't stay on the field.
But a running back that can't stay on the field.
And a running back that even if he was on the field, how many more games are they winning over the last couple of years?
You never take a running back in the number 2 pick available. I wouldn't even take a running back in the first 3 rounds if I'm the general manager of a football. You can find these guys anywhere.
I pulled up the numbers. Gettleman has made 54 total selections as a GM. He's traded up a few times. He did it a couple of years ago to get the immortal DeAndre Baker from Georgia.
Who could forget?
Yeah, who could forget DeAndre Baker? He's only since been waived because he was involved in like a criminal shootout or something. I mean, it's like a running joke that he never trades up. Daniel Jeremiah said earlier in the week on the NFL Network that we'll see a right turn in a NASCAR race before we see Dave Gettleman trade back. That's well said by Jeremiah. I mean, the guy never trades back. It's not going to start now. I don't see it. If the Giants were smart, though, and one of these quarterbacks slides, right? It's Mac Jones or it's Trey Lance, whoever it is, and they can move back a couple spots, they should. They have needs all over the roster. They only won 6 games this past year. Get the most amount of picks possible. Gettleman won't do it, though. It's just not his thing. He better hit on this pick, though. If I'm the Giants and I could take Micah Parsons, 11th overall, or if Devontae Smith is somehow there, I'm taking one of those guys. Sorry, that's my pick. Oh, but Jake, they signed Kenny Galladay in free agency. More weapons, the better, right? If you're the Giants and you come into next year with Daniel Jones going into year 3, you need to find out what he is. So you know what? If he's not your guy, if it doesn't end up working out, you're taking a quarterback next year and you're moving off Daniel Jones. The best way to find out what you have with Daniel Jones is if your receiving core is Kenny Galladay, Devontae Smith, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, and Evan Ingram at tight ends. load up with weapons. Your defense is already pretty good. Load up with weapons, and let's see what this team could be with Barkley at running back and those receivers and tight end I just laid out. If Devontae Smith is there for the Giants at 11, that's the pick I'm making. He's that electrifying of a player. I have no issue whatsoever if Gettleman goes. Best player on our board, Devontae Smith. That's the pick for the Giants. Kevin, would you go receiver, or would you go best defensive player at 11 for the Giants?
I agree with you. It's better. More weapons always going to be a good thing. And you have the young quarterback there that's starting to not be a young quarterback anymore because, after a few years, you can't call him a young quarterback anymore. I think actually I would go for something on the defensive side of the ball if I'm the Giants there.
I'll give you another option. If Rashad Slater's there, the tackle.
I thought about that. And I would take Rashad Slater. If he fell to 11, I would take Slater.
I'd be good with that too.
Yes.
Because last year you took Andrew Thomas. He had an up and down rookie year, but he got better. You have 2 bookend tackles now. That also helps Daniel.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if you call that weapons. That's more like protecting your quarterback, which is potentially a weapon in and of itself.
Now, an option for the Giants potentially with that 11th pick is Patrick Surtain, the second out of Alabama. Well, Surtain was on ESPN earlier in the week, and he discussed the idea of potentially going to a team that picks right in front of the New York Football Giants, the Dallas Cowboys, with that 10th overall pick.
First of all, I think it'll mean a lot just to get drafted by any team. But Dallas, I know, is a very high coaching prize city for the Cowboys. So, I just would take the opportunity and, be thankful for it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Cowboys need a corner. If they think Surtain's the best corner in the draft, I think he's the first defensive player taken at 10. I don't know if it's going to be Parsons at 10. I think the Giants at 11 could take Parsons, but I think Cowboys, if they don't get Pitts, if they don't pull off this wild trade to move up and get Kyle Pitts, don't you see Dallas going corner? Doesn't Surtain make the most sense there?
I think unless Denver jumps up and takes Surtain, which I don't anticipate happening, but they could use a corner to put opposite. Who did they just get back from the Bears that just got cut?
Kyle Fuller.
Kyle Fuller. Thank you very much. Yeah, I mean, that would be a pretty lethal duo if you want to put those guys in your secondary. But I find it very hard to believe that Surtain does not end up a Cowboy.
It's either him or I guess J.C. Horn could also go there.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
Depends how you rank your corners.
Exactly. And, Surtain, obviously, you're always going to favor a guy that played at Bama and had some success there generally.
I like the idea that he had to go up against all those receivers in practice every day.
Right.
Like the guys, forget the game day stuff. The guy at practice every day is going up against another NFL receiver that's going in the top 10.
Absolutely.
So I probably would favor him for that reason. That's pretty cool. You mentioned the Broncos just there, Kevin. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos. They're a fascinating team. They hold the 9th pick in the draft, and there's a lot of talk about them moving up for a quarterback. Maybe there's a quarterback at number 9 for them to just take, or maybe they like Drew Lock and they just stick with Drew Lock. Who knows? Well, their GM, George Patton, was asked about what they might do in regards to going quarterback in the draft, and this was the Broncos GM responding to that question.
We're really high on Drew. I like seeing Drew here every morning when I come in. He's working hard. He's trending in the right direction. As you know, he has a lot of talent. I think he's becoming a better pro, but we're going to still look at the quarterback position. I've said since I got here, we want to bring in competition, and that's the goal, and we plan on doing that.
What do the Broncos do in the draft? A very fascinating, underrated storyline. Everyone's talking about the Niners. Everyone's talking about the Falcons. Denver's one of those teams, still picking in the top 10, that could move up for a quarterback, and you would think more teams would be willing to deal with Denver because they're in the top 10 than a team like the Patriots at 15 or another team that's on the outside of the top 10. I think if I'm the Denver Broncos and Justin Fields is somehow there at 4 with the Falcons because Mac Jones goes 3, I'm moving up and I'm getting Justin Fields. That's what I'm doing. I think you have Drew Lock. He's fine. You're never going to win big with him. If Fields is truly there at 4, I'm calling the Falcons, Kevin. I'm making a deal. I'm going up and I'm getting Fields. That's what I would do.
I think it's tough because Drew Lock, second round pick, was hurt a little bit last year, played in 13 games, only played in 5 games as a rookie. Certainly been up and down. He flashes here and there, but is he the guy or is he a backup? We're in a draft now here we talked about it earlier, potentially 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10. They've got a top 10 pick. If it's Trey Lance, if it's Mac Jones, if it's even Fields, I don't see Fields falling that far, but you never know. It's going to be really, really appetizing for the Denver Broncos to try to solve their quarterback question, because I think any one of these guys coming out this year, I would like potentially more than Drew Lock, who I think is a fine player, but maybe a backup.
I like Drew Lock. I just don't have a lot of faith that he's ever going to be like a great player.
Exactly.
And I think if you're the Broncos and Fields is somehow there at 4, don't you got to keep swinging for the fences at quarterback until you find your guy? Like, that'd be my approach if I ran an NFL team. Let me try and bring in as much competition as possible. We don't yes, moving up from 9 to 4 is expensive. It's going to cost you your 1 next year. But if you believe Fields is that good and he's somehow there at 4, make the deal. Make the deal. That's what I would do. All right, to baseball now. Let's talk about Jacob DeGrom, how good this guy is. Jacob DeGrom last night struck out a career-high 15 batters. He gave up just 2 hits in his 4th complete game of his career in the Mets 6-0 win over the Nationals. But it wasn't just the pitching for DeGrom. He also had 2 hits, including the game-winning RBI in this game. Yes, DeGrom did everything last night for the Mets in one of the most impressive pitching performances you will ever see. This was DeGrom after the game last night. And listen to what DeGrom said. Listen to why he said he was actually nervous going into this start against the Nationals last night.
I try to control what I can control and take it 1 pitch at a time. Tonight I noticed my stuff was really good in the bullpen, and I've had starts where my stuff's been really good in the bullpen, and you go out there and you almost lose a little bit of focus. So walking in, I literally was thinking, hey, you got to keep that focus throughout the whole game. So that made me a little nervous, because I think some of my best starts, I've barely thrown strikes down there. So actually walking in, I was a little nervous, but then, once I got out there, calmed down and was executing pitches, I felt good and was just trying to keep us in the ball game.
Imagine that. His stuff was so good that he was nervous. Pretty good problem to have if you're Jacob DeGrom, I'd say, right? I want my stuff to be so good out in the bullpen that I'm nervous too. If I could pitch like that, yikes.
I do find it a little disconcerting that he got so much better once he cut his hair. It's kind of like the reverse Samson effect. Like, he was always very, very good pitcher and had the long mane, and then he cut his hair and he just went to the next level.
Yeah.
I'd like to see if there's any science behind that.
It's a great point, because since he's cut his hair, he's won 2 Cy Young Awards.
I mean, my God, we talked about it earlier. I mean, he's just on another level. All due respect to the 2 young men taking the hill today between the Cleveland Indians and the New York Yankees. They're not even on the level of a Jacob DeGrom. I mean, nobody is. Max Scherzer, certainly not. And it's just Kershaw now, not anymore. Like, who is touching Jacob DeGrom right now?
He is a special type of dominant right now. I mean, historical level.
And he's throwing harder than he's ever thrown before. I mean, he's 32, 33 years old almost.
He's 33, but here's something that you should note about DeGrom. Because you look at his age, you're like, why is he throwing harder at age 33? Jacob DeGrom was a converted shortstop in college. So he does not have the typical amount of innings on an arm that a 33-year-old pitcher would. So DeGrom is probably closer to 30 in age compared to 33. So, he's talked about pitching into his 40s. Why not? Why not?
Who's going to tell him no?
I mean, why wouldn't we expect that based on what he's doing? Like what? I would say 50% of Jacob DeGrom right now is still a top 20 pitcher in the game. That's how dominant his level of greatness is right now. 50% of DeGrom is better than 95% of baseball. I mean, he's that good right now. It's just disgusting what he's doing.
Yeah, it's not fair, honestly, to the rest of the league, and it's not fair that he has to play for the Mets, because I'd prefer him on a better team. Although, fair play to the Mets, they're trying. God bless them.
Look, the Mets might be a playoff team this year.
Yeah, they could be. I think so. Yeah, and shame that Stroman couldn't follow it up today. He's kind of getting knocked around a little bit currently by the Nats.
He had been very good this year.
Up to this point, he had been exceptional.
He's having a tough start today, but he had been very good this year. There's no doubt about that. Finally, let's talk some UFC, shall we? A little UFC action tonight. We're going to talk to Dan Yanofsky coming up at 40 past the hour. He covers UFC up close, so we'll go more in depth on UFC 261, but it is a pay-per-view event. It's in Jacksonville in front of a full capacity crowd. And the main event fight is a rematch from a fight over the summer that occurred on Fight Island. Yes, Jorge Masvidal gets the rematch he wanted against Kamaru Usman for the welterweight title of the world. Now, this time, though, Masvidal gets a full training camp to prepare for the wrestling dominant fighter that is Kamaru Usman. Usman was supposed to fight Gilbert Burns over the summer. Burns tested positive for COVID, so on 6 days' notice, Jorge Masvidal took the fight. Now, Usman won, but a lot of people think Masvidal's got a shot now because, well, he has a full training camp. And by saying a lot of people think Masvidal has a shot, that includes, well, Jorge Masvidal. This was Masvidal earlier in the week on what it means to actually have a full training camp ahead of this fight tonight against Usman.
Not having to cut 20 pounds in 6 days means a lot to me, Last time, yes, sir, I will be doing that, bringing that title right back to Miami. All the energy I wasted in cutting weight is going to be spent in putting a finish on him.
Well, Vegas doesn't think so. Usman right now is a minus 435 favorite to win. I mean, Usman is 18-1 in his career. He is on one of the all-time dominant stretches in the history of UFC. I like Usman to win tonight. I'm rooting for Masvidal, though. I'd love to see him win. I just think Usman's at a different level right now.
I like Kamaru Usman, but I do have to say that the first fight they had back in July was boring. And part of that was down to Masvidal just kind of hopping and be like, yeah, I'll take the fight because that's the kind of crazy guy Jorge Masvidal is.
And Usman just toe stomped the crap out of Masvidal.
Stomping his toes. It went to the decision. Not really much happened. You could tell Masvidal was not 100% ready for that fight. So I'm anticipating the rematch much more. And like I said, I like I like Kamaru Usman. And like you said, he's on a hell of a run. He's a great wrestler and he's a champion for a reason. But I wouldn't mind seeing Jorge knock him out tonight. I wouldn't mind seeing it. It wouldn't make me upset.
UFC is fun to bet because if you just throw a couple shekels on the underdog, you get such a big payout. And upsets do happen in UFC
all the time. So, especially with a guy like Masvidal, who we've seen, have fantastic knockouts for years.
Just ask Ben Askren.
Yeah, exactly. Ben Askren is a poor guy, but hey, he got a big paycheck at least.
Worked out well for him in that fight, and I guess he did get a pretty decent paycheck after boxing Jake Paul last week.
I would let Jake Paul knock me out for $500,000.
I would too.
Kidding me?
I would take a punch from Jake Paul for $500,000. Absolutely,
no question.
I'd be all in on it. That wraps it up for Quick Hits here on a Saturday edition of America's favorite segment of the Jake Asman Show. Plenty still to dive into. I mentioned UFC, Masvidal, and Usman at UFC 261. We'll go more in depth on all the matches tonight on the pay-per-view fight card in about 10 minutes with Dan Yanofsky. But first, a quick break. We'll come right back. Stay tuned. Jake Asman with you here on Sports Map Radio.